I want to talk to you about time, talent, and treasure. I believe that these are the three things that we will be rewarded for as we give and serve with our time and just being present. The best ability is just availability and showing up. Your talent, it is good, as we talked about, passion and ability. Like we have a gifting in something and then we use that for the Lord. And then your treasure, even your finances. This is how we serve Jesus in and out of the church. And so I am living for an eternal reward. I'm not living for, in my best moments, serving Jesus. I'm not living for things of this earth and for myself. I'm living for Jesus, loving Him, loving my neighbor as myself, and giving of my time, talent, and treasure. And so I do believe that there's a reward waiting me and waiting you with the things that we've given the Lord. Again, as that's a cup of cold water, the principle that Jesus says, as you are ministering to those that are forgotten and that no one is thinking about, the least of these, as Jesus says. I do believe Jesus is glorified, that we are rewarded, and that other people are blessed when we give our time, talent, and treasure. Now, I do want to mention this, that it doesn't matter how much time, how much talent, and how much treasure you give. There was this thing that happened that Jesus talked about, and he pointed out a religious leader who literally tooted his own horn, giving money and making a scene about all the things that he was doing, that he was giving, his time. He's a Pharisee and he's serving the Lord, that he is talented enough to be known and to make some money, and he gave all this treasure. And Jesus says, well, that widow over there only gave 2 mites, a half of penny. And in God's eyes, she gave more because it was out of everything that she had, where this other guy gave out of an abundance. And so let me just talk about treasure for a second. The tithe is an Old Testament principle. It's never necessarily taught in the New Testament, but there are some people, like for instance, there was a time where we needed assistance financially, and so we actually had WIC, so we can buy diapers and formula, and it was very difficult for us to give 10%. I believe that we did our best, but it wasn't in this religious manner as like, hey, we want to sacrifice, but like we need to make sure our kids eat. And then I've heard of a pastor who lives off of 10% of his income, because he wrote this book and he gave back all of the money that the church paid him. He gave back to the church and lived off 10% because he had so much. And so it's, again, not so much the treasure, it needs to be 10%, but it is the heart. Now, it's a good starting place for giving of your treasure. And so time, this is our most important commodity. It is really comes down to you prioritizing, and Jesus says, seek first the kingdom of heaven, and then all of these things will be added to you. We live in such a culture that is self-serving and not self-sacrificial with time and talent and treasure, and so we need to prioritize Jesus first. Your talent could be that you were born with it, that you grow into it, and again, treasure is not necessarily the amount, but the heart. And so there are some teachings here in this course that I taught on time, talent, and treasure. I believe it was the first or second Christmas that we were a church, and just breaking these things down. Again, it's going to be some allusions to Christmas, but the principles are still the same. I encourage you to listen to this, to break these things down individually, and give some explanation and some illustration with giving and serving with our time, talent, and treasure.